Scary telling.
I hadn't seen Katie in years. Not since we were in high school together. But as I approached the entrance to Shep's General Store, there she was, sitting in front of a big bucket of worms and wearing a faded denim jacket, a gray knit cap, and long yellow rubber gloves up to her elbow. "Do I know you?" I asked, squinting at her. "Don't reckon we've met," she said in a low voice. "Glad to meet you, though. Name's Katie. Set you up with some bait?" I laughed. "Sure can. They're looking pretty lively." As she handed me the baggie of worms and I gave her the cash, I couldn't help but notice how strange she seemed. There was something off about her, like she was hiding something. And those gloves she was wearing? They were so strange. The thing is, fish are smarter than we give them credit for. You can't just cast anywhere and get a bite right away. It takes skill, right? She explained to me. I nodded, intrigued by her knowledge. "Now, if you all go to the lake and dozens of worms all have the scent from my hands on them, well, the fish are going thinking something's fishy." I laughed again. "That's pretty smart. Just want you to all have a good day on the lake," she said with a smile. But as I turned to leave, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right about Katie. Her voice was too low, her gloves too long, and her eyes too guarded. It was almost as if she was hiding something from me. As I drove away from the store, I couldn't help but feel a growing unease. The townspeople had started experiencing strange symptoms, and now I wondered if it had something to do with the bait that Katie was selling. I made a mental note to investigate further and headed home, wondering what else Katie might be hiding. After experiencing the strange symptoms from Katie's bait, I knew that something was not right. I had to find out what was going on. So, I went to the local authorities to report what had happened and to ask if they knew anything about Katie. The authorities were already investigating the situation, and they told me that they had been looking for Katie for some time. They suspected that she was behind the strange illness that had been affecting the townspeople. It turned out that Katie was not who she claimed to be. She had changed her name and identity to hide from her past in the town. The authorities discovered that she had been experimenting with genetic hybrids of earthworms, pinworms, and tapeworms. These hybrids were extremely aggressive and could infect both fish and humans. The authorities were shocked by what they found. They had never seen anything like it before. They were afraid that the hybrids had already spread to the lake's ecosystem and were infecting the fish that the townspeople were catching. As the investigation continued, more and more people were showing signs of illness. The townspeople were starting to panic, and the authorities were struggling to keep the situation under control. They put up a fence around the lake to prevent people from going near it, but it was too late. I couldn't stop thinking about Katie and what she had done. I knew that she was responsible for the outbreak, but I didn't know why she had done it. I decided to investigate further and try to find out what had driven her to create these hybrids. After some digging, I discovered that Katie had been bullied by the townspeople when she was in high school. They had tormented her every day, and she had vowed never to return to the town after she left for college. It became clear that Katie had been seeking revenge on the town that had wronged her. She had been targeting the lake, which was the pride and joy of the town. She knew that if she could infect the fish in the lake, it would cause chaos and destruction for the entire town. The authorities were stunned by what they had discovered. They realized that they had to act fast to prevent the hybrids from spreading any further. But they had no idea how to stop them. The hybrids were too aggressive and too dangerous. I knew that I had to do something to stop Katie and her hybrids. I joined a group of volunteers who were trying to find a way to contain the outbreak. We worked day and night to find a cure, but it seemed like we were fighting a losing battle. As the situation grew worse, I began to lose hope. It seemed like there was no way to stop the hybrids from spreading, and I wondered if the town would ever recover from the devastation that had been wrought upon it. The situation at Travis Lake was getting worse by the day. Despite the authorities' best efforts to contain the outbreak, The hybrids were spreading beyond the lake's ecosystem and infecting the townspeople. Panic and fear swept through the town as people started to show signs of illness. The authorities were struggling to keep up with the demand for medical care, and hospitals were overrun with patients. The hybrids were aggressive and dangerous, and the townspeople were becoming increasingly desperate to find a cure. As the hybrids continued to spread, people began to avoid the lake altogether. Fishing boats were left abandoned, and the once popular lake was now eerily silent. It was clear that the town's pride and joy had become a place of horror. I watched in horror as my friends and neighbors fell one by one. The hybrids seemed to be infecting everyone they came into contact with, and it was clear that there was no way to stop them. Despite the danger, I knew that I had to do something to help. I joined a group of volunteers who were trying to stop the hybrids from spreading any further. We patrolled the town, warning people to stay away from the lake and distributing information about the hybrids and how to avoid them. But it seemed like our efforts were in vain. The hybrids were everywhere, and there was no way to avoid them completely. Even those who had never been near the lake were starting to show signs of illness. As the days turned into weeks, the situation at Travis Lake continued to deteriorate. People were dying left and right, and the authorities had no idea how to stop the spread of the hybrids. I began to wonder if we were all going to die. It seemed like there was no hope, no way to fight back against the relentless onslaught of the hybrids. And then something strange happened. The hybrids seemed to be evolving. They were mutating, becoming even more aggressive and dangerous. It was as if they were adapting to the environment and finding new ways to infect the townspeople. The authorities were stunned by this development. They had never seen anything like it before. They realized that they had to find a way to stop the hybrids from evolving, or else the town would be doomed. But it seemed like there was no way to stop them. The hybrids were too powerful, too dangerous. As I looked out over the town, I saw that it had become a place of despair. People were dying, and there was no way to save them. The hybrids had taken over, and it seemed like there was no way to fight back. But I knew that we couldn't give up. We had to keep fighting, no matter how hopeless the situation seemed. We had to find a way to stop the hybrids and save the town. I took a deep breath and steeled myself for the fight ahead. It was going to be a long and difficult road, but I was determined to see it through to the end. The fate of the town was at stake, and we couldn't afford to give up now. The situation at Travis Lake had reached a critical point. The hybrids were evolving at an alarming rate, and the town was on the brink of collapse. But we refused to give up. We were determined to find a way to stop the hybrids and save the town. As we worked tirelessly to find a solution, we realized that we had to take the fight to the hybrids. We couldn't just wait for them to come to us, we had to go to them. So, we formed a plan. We would create a diversion to draw the hybrids away from the town, and then we would launch a full-scale attack on them. It was risky, but we had no other choice. The fate of the town rested on our shoulders. We put our plan into action. We set off explosives to create a diversion, and then we launched our attack. The hybrids were caught off guard, and we were able to take them down one by one. But just as we thought we had won, something strange happened. The hybrids began to mutate again, becoming even more aggressive and dangerous. We realized that we had been too late. The hybrids had already taken over the lake, and there was no way to stop them. It was then that we saw her. Katie. She was standing on the shore of the lake, watching us with a cold, emotionless expression. "You're too late," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The hybrids have taken over. There's no way to stop them now." I couldn't believe it. After all that we had done, after all that we had sacrificed, we had failed. But then Katie did something unexpected. She pulled off her gloves, revealing her hands. They were covered in scars and bruises, evidence of the genetic experiments that she had conducted. "I did this for a reason," she said. "I was wronged by this town, and I wanted revenge. But now I see that what I did was wrong. I can't undo the damage that I've caused, but I can help you stop the hybrids." We were stunned by her words. After everything that had happened, after all the death and destruction, she was offering to help us. And so, we joined forces with Katie. Together, we worked to find a way to stop the hybrids once and for all. It was a difficult and dangerous process, but we persevered. We created a serum that could neutralize the hybrids' DNA, rendering them harmless. And then, we launched our final attack. We injected the serum into the hybrids, and one by one, they began to drop to the ground. It was a long and difficult battle, but in the end, we emerged victorious. The hybrids were defeated, and the town was safe once again. As we looked out over the lake, we knew that we had done the impossible. We had stopped the hybrids and saved the town from destruction. But as we celebrated our victory, I couldn't help but think about all of the lives that had been lost. All of the pain and suffering that had been caused by the hybrids. I knew that we could never forget what had happened at Travis Lake. It would be a scar on our town's history, a reminder of the dangers of playing God. But for now, we could rest easy knowing that the town was safe and that we had prevailed against all odds. After the battle against the hybrids at Travis Lake, the town was forever changed. The scars of the attack would remain with us for years to come. But despite the pain and suffering, the town came together in the aftermath of the attack. We mourned the loss of those who had been taken from us, and we celebrated our victory over the hybrids. We knew that we had been lucky. If it hadn't been for the dedication and bravery of those who fought against the hybrids, the town would have been destroyed. But we also knew that we couldn't let our guard down. The hybrids had been a reminder of the dangers of playing God, and we had to be vigilant to ensure that nothing like this ever happened again. In the days and weeks that followed the attack, the town began to rebuild. We cleaned up the debris left behind by the battle and started to repair the damage that had been done. But it wasn't just the physical damage that needed to be repaired. The attack had left emotional scars on the town as well. We had to come to terms with the fact that something like this could happen in our own backyard. As the town began to heal, we realized that we had to make changes. We had to ensure that our community was safe and that nothing like this ever happened again. We implemented new safety protocols and regulations to prevent anyone from conducting dangerous genetic experiments. We also formed a committee to investigate the events leading up to the attack and to ensure that those responsible were held accountable. It wasn't easy, but we knew that it was necessary. We couldn't let the events at Travis Lake be forgotten or ignored. They were a reminder of the dangers of playing God and of the need to be vigilant against those who would use science for their own gain. As time passed, the town began to return to its normal routine. The lake was reopened, and people started to fish once again. But there was always a sense of unease, a lingering fear that the hybrids could return at any moment. And yet, despite the fear and the pain, the town had come out stronger. We had shown what we were capable of when we came together, and we had emerged victorious against all odds. As I looked out over the town, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. We had been tested, and we had passed. We had shown that even in the face of the greatest danger, we could come together and overcome it. And so, the town of Travis Lake moved forward. We would never forget the events of the past, but we would use them to guide us into the future. We would be vigilant against those who would use science for their own gain, and we would never forget the power of community and perseverance. The events at Travis Lake would forever be a part of our town's history, a reminder of what we were capable of when we came together. And as we looked towards the future, we knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together.